Greetings viewer, Adventure Link here. Today I thought I'd take a few moments to make a video response to EricTheCarGuy's ETCG1 video on Don't Make My Life More Difficult. I will have a link to the video in the description, but for a too long didn't read, but in this case didn't watch kind of thing, a little bit of background in my own words is that Eric, a couple years ago, had this 2000 Honda Accord come into his shop on a flatbed truck with the engine halfway in pieces, trashed all over the interior. At the time the video was shot, which was around July 2010, the car was 10 years old, obviously, had over 200,000 miles on it. He said it was a really nice car. I'm just going to take his word on it because he didn't post any before or after shots of it. So yeah, as for the miles, I'm not going to get a big argument about miles, but my personal thing on miles, if it's less than 10,000 miles a year driven, it's a cream puff. If it's between 10,000 and 15,000, while it's technically not a cream puff, it's still a low mileage find. I'd still pursue it. If it's between 15,000 and 19,000, I would still pursue it, but approach with caution. And if it's at 19,000, approach with extreme caution. Anything over 20,000, I wouldn't touch it. I mean, if you want to get high mileage cars, that's up to you overall, but more power to you. But personally, I wouldn't touch it. In any case, the reason why the engine was in shambles and all over the inside was because the previous owner complained of it overheating. There are, various cases, or causes rather, of overheating. On the low end, you could have a blocked radiator between the condenser and the radiator, bad temp sensor, bad thermostat, gunk coolant, bad fan, bad relay, or you could have a leak or a blown head gasket or engine, which, in that case, you would be screwed. Anyway, the owner assumed the worst and went gung-ho on the head gasket. Obviously, he didn't finish the job, which is why it was in Eric's shop in pieces. But what Eric did find was that he used some kind of angle die grinder to peel the gasket off of, which on newer Hondas, not only did they change the gasket material, but they made the tolerances where the head and block contact for the head gasket are near zero. In other words, it should be clean, sparkly, you should see your face, no imperfections, etc. Obviously, the angle die grinder made perfections, otherwise he wouldn't have posted that in his video. In any case, he managed to reassemble the engine with the new head gasket, and it made a nice little smoke show in his shop. He got that all kicked in the butt, and as it got outside, did a visual inspection, found that the condenser fan was not working. So, he said he believed that the problem the entire time was the condenser fan rather than a blown head gasket. And in any case, glad that he fixed it, and he posted it, compared it to having a venereal disease, and he wouldn't touch it, which I guess at this point I'd probably have to agree with him. And with that being said, I do have a personal basket case that I want to share. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of it and I'm not free of sin in that regard, but to set the stage, it was December of 2009. We were just practically this close going into 2010. Heater core blew out my Saturn. Got all the classic signs, fogged windshield, coolant on the floor, coolant smell in the cab. Did some research on it, thought I could tackle the job, Had all the access panels off, it had the core exposed. And the next morning, I tried to drain the coolant from the heater core, try to separate it from the cooling system. Using my vice grips to get the hose clamps off, it was being a bitch. So I ended up taking it to CarX, where they fixed the heater core for me. I thought at the time, I could have got a good deal because I, had half the job done. They just had to swap out the core and put it all back together. Well, I was wrong. I would end up charged as if I didn't even touch it at all. Which, come to think of it, from what I know now from then, I guess I got kind of lucky. Because it could have been much worse, with regards to the cursing, frustrations, price, etc. So, I guess in conclusion, I'm going to echo EricTheCarGuy's statement in saying, if you don't know how to fix something in your car, don't touch it. Learn before you touch it. do some research, like post on automotive-specific forums, hopefully one specific to your vehicle, let alone your vehicle's platform. It doesn't do any good to post on the Saturn forums if you have Crown Vic problems. For that, you would have to go to crownvic.net. Or if you have Saturn problems, you go to the Saturn fans forums, for example. In addition, you can also go on All Data, go through the Mitchell's book, or if you're going automotive repair classes in class, consult your instructor. Take some time and research it to see if you're up to the task. If you're not up to the task, don't touch it. Just take it to a shop, and trust me, even though you might catch some flack and some teasing for taking it to a shop, in my honest opinion, if you can't do it, it's better to take it to the shop in the first place. Obviously, it's going to cost a lot more than doing it on your own, but it will save you some time, money, and frustration, as well as the technician that happens to be working on your car that day. And I did say stuff about basket cases. I did kind of borrow that from one of my instructors, which a basket case is pretty much the classic edition of what this Honda became, which was pretty much the engine being thrown all over inside the car. But in a more somewhat non-extreme case, it would be, parts in the box and just hand it over to your technician and expect them to figure it the hell out and reassemble it for you. Wrong. You don't do that. And also, I guess if there's another moral to the story, it's have the proper tools for the proper job. It doesn't do any good to use a DVOM to fix a water pump. It doesn't do any good to bust out your torque wrench when you're trying to track down an electrical problem. Obviously, those were two very extreme circumstances and very stupid ones, but for what it's worth, if I would have had a smaller vice grip that day, I could have probably gotten to those hose clamps pretty good, and I would have been able to save the shop a little bit of frustration. And anyway, with this being said, this has been Adventure Link telling you that their two morals were, if you don't know how to do something, learn before you touch it. Don't cause any more trouble than what it's worth, and always use the proper tools for the proper job. And I'm going to close this off by quoting Eric the Car Guy and saying, be safe, have fun, and stay dirty. Of course, as long as you know what you are doing. See you next time.